funny thing about silence. Everyone thinks it's peace, a quiet room, a deep breath, a sigh after a long day. That kind of silence, decorated, neat, rehearsed. But that's not real silence. Real silence doesn't soothe you. It stares back. It crawls under your skin when the lights are off and no one's clapping for you anymore. It's what's left when the applause dies, the crowd leaves, and the mask starts slipping. Silence doesn't heal. It reveals. Funny how people romanticize silence like it's some magic pill. Like if you just sit still long enough, all the chaos inside will take a nap. But it doesn't. It sharpens. It watches. It waits for you to stop talking so it can whisper the things you've been avoiding. The truth about what you really feel. The truth about who you've become. Silence isn't a soft place to land. It's a mirror with no cracks. And most people don't want to look at themselves without filters, noise, or distraction. They'd rather fill their ears with someone else's problems, someone else's voice, someone else's lies, just so they don't have to face the sound of their own. You see, in noise, you can pretend. Pretend you're okay. Pretend you're strong. Pretend the things that broke you didn't leave marks. But when it's silent, that's when the real show begins. Your mind doesn't shut off. It turns on like a projector in a dark room. Every mistake, every regret, every twisted little thing you tried to forget walks back into the spotlight. No makeup, no costume, just raw, uncut footage of you. Healing? No. Silence doesn't patch you up. It peels you open. You thought you buried those memories deep? Silence is the shovel. It digs. It finds the bones. People think silence is peace. Maybe in a movie. In real life, it's war. A war where you're both the prisoner and the interrogator. And trust me, no one tortures you like you. You know the exact words that hurt. The exact scenes that replay. You know where the emotional bruises are. And silence. Well, silence knows how to press on them. That's why people panic when it gets too quiet. They reach for their phones, turn on the TV, call someone they don't even like. Because silence doesn't care about politeness. It's not here to comfort you. It's here to corner you. But here's the trick. The funny little secret no one likes to admit. Silence doesn't create the pain. It just uncovers it. It's not some villain that comes to break you. It just shows you what's already broken. That ache you feel when everything stops? It was always there. The noise just gave it something to hide behind. Silence didn't wound you. It pulled back the curtain and pointed to where you're bleeding. And yet they call it peaceful, meditative, therapeutic. Isn't that rich? As if peeling yourself open with your own hands is some kind of relaxing retreat. No, silence isn't healing. Not at first. First, it hurts deeply, uncomfortably. But people don't want uncomfortable. They want safe. They want silence to tuck them in and sing them to sleep. But real silence is raw. It doesn't lull, it lurches. It jolts. It stares at you until you blink first. You ever sat alone for hours, no sound, no movement, and suddenly you remember things you swore were gone. Things you haven't thought about in years crawl back like they never left. That's silence. It doesn't play fair. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It kicks in the door, lays out your secrets, and smirks. And you either face them or you drown in them. That's the deal. And people avoid it like the plague, because deep down, they know. They know that once the noise fades, once the distractions die out, what's left isn't silence at all. It's the echo of your own mind, louder than any crowd. It's the part of you locked in the attic, finally picking the lock. And once it's out, well, Now it's your turn to listen. People love control. Oh, they crave it. Like some sort of invisible leash around the throat of life. They think if they plan enough, predict enough, play it safe enough, nothing bad will happen. They believe the illusion that if they grip tight enough, the world will obey. But it never does. Control is a myth. A bedtime story told to anxious minds so they don't scream in the dark. There's no steering wheel on chaos, and yet everyone keeps reaching for it, white-knuckled, hoping this time, it won't slip. Funny thing, isn't it? The tighter they cling, the more they suffocate themselves. They call it strategy, but it's fear in a tuxedo, and fear doesn't play fair. Fear whispers, don't trust. Fear says, don't move. Fear builds walls that look like logic, and suddenly they're not living, they're calculating. Every step measured, every move rehearsed. And for what? To delay the crash? To slow down the storm? It's coming either way. The joke is they think they can outsmart the unpredictable, but life laughs back. Because eventually the plan cracks. The perfect script gets rewritten in blood and smoke. And those who thought they had control are left standing in the ruins, clutching broken maps that never mattered in the first place. See, the world doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock politely before turning everything upside down. It just happens. And when it does, the ones addicted to control are the first to fall apart. Now here's the punchline. They blame themselves. Isn't that poetic? They do everything right, and when it all burns down anyway, they think it's their fault. As if perfection was protection. As if control was ever real. It's not. It never was. It was a trick. A mask. A way to feel big in a universe that couldn't care less about your checklist. But people hate that truth. So they double down. They build thicker walls, sharper plans, tighter schedules. And inside, they're rotting. Because deep down, they know. They know they're one phone call away, one accident away, one heartbeat away from losing it all. And instead of facing that reality, they run. They hide in calendars and rules and numbers. But chaos doesn't need a key. It walks right in. And it doesn't care how many alarms you set. It just smiles and says, try and stop me. And there's nothing you can do. Not really. But oh, people try. They try to manage everything and everyone. Micromanage their lives down to the second. Control the conversation, control the outcome, control their emotions. But control isn't mastery. It's fear with makeup on. It's shaking hands pretending to be steady. You ever seen someone fall apart when one thing doesn't go as planned? That's what control does. It builds you up like glass. Beautiful, precise, fragile. One crack and it's over. And that's where freedom lives, in the collapse. In the moment they realize control was a cage. A shiny one, sure, but still a cage. When you finally let go, when you stop pretending you're the puppeteer of fate, that's when something else wakes up. Not safety, not certainty, but clarity. Real clarity. The kind that doesn't beg for order, doesn't plead for predictability. The kind that stares into the storm and laughs, not because it's fearless, but because it finally knows the truth. They call it peace, but it's just noise turned down low. You ever really sit in silence? Not the polite kind, not the fake meditation app kind. No. I mean real silence. The kind that crawls inside your bones and makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. That kind of silence doesn't hum, it hisses. It's not a blank canvas, it's a mirror. And most people, oh, they hate mirrors. Because in the quiet, there's nowhere to hide. No music to mask the tremble in your thoughts. No background chatter to drown out the little voice screaming, something's not right. And that's the trick. Most people aren't scared of the dark. They're terrified of what they might hear when it's quiet. See, noise is a drug. Loud friends, loud screams, loud routines, all of it, just static. Keeps the monsters in your head from getting too loud. Keeps you moving fast enough to not notice the cracks. But then the world pauses. Maybe a heartbreak, maybe a loss, maybe just stillness. And suddenly it's quiet. And there it is, that echo of everything you've shoved under the floorboards of your mind. Regret, guilt, rage, longing, the whole ugly parade. And it marches in silence. Now here's the kicker. Silence doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg for your attention. It just waits. Patient. Deadpan. Waiting for you to finally sit still long enough to feel what you've been avoiding. People spend their whole lives running from that. They fill their calendars, their bellies, their beds, anything to stay distracted. But silence, it always finds them. It's the final guest at every party, the last face you see before you sleep. The only one that doesn't lie. And when it catches up to you, it doesn't come for revenge. Oh no, it's far worse than that. It comes with truth, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that cuts. You think you know who you are. Wait until you're alone in your room, no phone, no music, just the sound of your own breath and every decision you've ever made sitting next to you like ghosts in cheap suits. That's the moment where the real stuff shows up. That's when the mask slips. You ever look in the mirror and not recognize what you see? Not physically, deeper. I'm talking about that moment when your soul stares back and says, "This isn't what we planned." That's silence talking. And it doesn't blink. It just keeps staring until you either break or finally admit the truth. The truth about who you hurt, who you became, what you've been ignoring, and maybe what you could still become if you dared to stop running. Silence is the judge and the jury. Not because it punishes, but because it forces confession. You can lie to the world. Hell, you can even lie to your friends, your family, your God. But silence? You can't lie to that. It knows. It always knows. And once you've heard it speak, nothing sounds the same again. Your favorite songs sound hollow. Your small talk feels scripted. Your laughter echoes weird. Because once you hear silence, really hear it, you start to hear everything differently. But most people will never get there. They'll reach for the remote, the bottle, the pills, the phone, anything but stillness. Because stillness feels like drowning when you're full of secrets. But those who sit in it, who don't flinch, who don't run, they come out changed. Quieter, yes, but sharper. Like silence carved away all the noise, all the lies, all the fluff, and left only what matters. Real silence doesn't ask you to be calm. It demands you be honest. They always told you to be kind, be patient, be understanding. But they forgot to mention what happens when the kindness bleeds you dry, when patience becomes permission, when understanding turns into being walked on like a doormat with a smile painted on it. You ever notice that? The world loves a quiet sufferer, the one who bites their tongue so hard it bleeds, but still says, "I'm fine." Because silence makes things easier for everyone else. Your pain doesn't inconvenience the show if you learn to keep it in a pretty box. But what happens when that box cracks? When the polite nod becomes a twitch? When the clenched jaw can't hold back the scream anymore? That's when it gets interesting. That's when the masks start falling. You see, people only respect strength when it makes them feel safe. But when your strength starts burning, when your strength starts snarling, when it stops asking for permission and starts making noise, that's when they call you dangerous. And maybe you are. Maybe you've had enough. Maybe you're done swallowing your fire just to keep the room warm for people who would freeze if you turned your back. Maybe it's time to stop holding back. Maybe the real crime wasn't being angry, it was pretending you weren't. Wearing the smile that didn't reach your eyes, playing the part, nodding through the lies, agreeing when your soul screamed, no, that's not strength. That's slow motion self-destruction dressed up as maturity. They'll say, don't burn bridges, but they never ask why those bridges were built in the first place. Was it to connect or to control? Was it to build or to bind? Some bridges lead you straight into cages, straight into people's versions of you, versions that smile, obey, shrink. But what if you were never meant to fit? What if the only way to survive was to stop crossing their bridges and start lighting them on fire? You weren't born to tiptoe around egos. You weren't made to be manageable. The ones who thrive in chaos aren't broken. They just stopped pretending the world makes sense. And maybe that's you now. The quiet one who finally snapped. The polite one who decided to roar. And now they're uncomfortable. Now they whisper, what's wrong with them? But the real question is, what took you so long? You gave them years, smiles, second chances, grace they didn't deserve. You covered up their messes, laughed at their jokes, let them turn your spine into a doormat. But now the spine's stiffening. Now the smile's gone. Now the hands are shaking. Not with fear, but with something ancient, something primal. Something that says, I'm not playing anymore. Let them call it rebellion. Let them call it anger. Let them say you've changed. They're right. You've changed. You've evolved. You've peeled back the skin they painted on you and found the raw, wild truth underneath. And it doesn't apologize. It doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It doesn't stay quiet just to keep the peace that only ever meant your silence. The world doesn't know what to do with people who stop begging to be loved, who stop earning their worth like it's a paycheck, who look in the mirror and finally recognize the stranger staring back as someone worth listening to. And when that happens, when you finally stop asking for permission to exist fully, loudly, painfully, you become a problem they can't solve. Because the truth is, some fires weren't meant to be extinguished. They were meant to spread, to consume every fake smile, every polite lie, every ounce of dignity that was bartered away for approval. And now that fire's in your chest. And it's not rage. It's not bitterness. It's clarity. It's freedom. It's power that remembers what it was like to beg and vows never to kneel again. They tell you to stay calm, breathe, meditate, focus on peace. But what if peace was never the goal? What if all this talk of balance and harmony was just another chain dressed in velvet? See, they don't want you quiet for your sake. They want you quiet so you don't scare them. So you don't start asking questions they don't have pretty answers for. So you keep playing your role. Smile here, nod there, blend in, sit still, be useful, not loud, never loud. Because loud means alive. Loud means you're starting to feel something again. And that, oh, that's terrifying. You see, the system doesn't want you awake. It wants you efficient, obedient, predictable. You're a cog with feelings, yes, but feelings are only allowed when they help the machine run smoother. The moment your emotions start jamming the gears, problem, diagnosis, medication, isolation. They don't fix you, they dilute you. You ever notice how they love the word functioning? High functioning, low functioning. Functioning like you're a piece of equipment, like your value is in how well you serve something else. Like your purpose is productivity and your soul is just background noise. But what if your soul didn't come here to function? What if it came here to erupt, to question, to rage, to scream, to break things that needed breaking? What then? They say you're too intense, too emotional, too much. But maybe too much is exactly what they're afraid of. Maybe too much is code for we can't control you anymore. Maybe too much is power that remembers its name. And now that it's remembering, they panic. Because if you wake up, really wake up, you'll start seeing the cracks, the lies, the manipulations hidden in smiles, the control hidden in kindness, the strings behind the curtain pulling at your thoughts like a marionette. And once you see the strings, the puppet show loses its magic, doesn't it? The danger isn't in being angry. The danger is in the silence before the anger. That stillness where something ancient starts breathing again. That sacred rage rising not from hate, but from love that's been ignored for too long. Love for yourself. Love that says, I will not bleed for your comfort anymore. Love that sets fire to every polite yes you whispered when your whole being screamed no. They want you numb, distracted, addicted to scrolling, to spending, to suppressing. They want you chasing validation like it's oxygen, likes, views, applause, attention. Little digital pacifiers to keep you from noticing how starved your soul has become, because a numb crowd doesn't riot. A numb crowd doesn't rise. A numb crowd keeps paying, keeps working, keeps smiling for the camera, even when the world is burning behind it. But maybe you're done being numb. Maybe you're tired of anesthetizing your truth. Maybe the ache in your chest isn't depression, it's the part of you that remembers you were never meant to fit into this sterile, lifeless routine. Maybe that ache is sacred. Maybe that discomfort is divine. Maybe it's not something to fix, but something to follow. Let them call it instability. Let them call it rebellion. Let them say you're going through something. Good. Go through it. Don't stop. Burn through it. Tear through every false identity you were given just to survive. Peel off the labels. Rip off the mask. The one that smiles when you want to scream. The one that says, I'm fine, when your bones are cracking under the weight of pretending. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're not too much. You're just finally refusing to be small. And maybe, just maybe, that's what scares them most. Not your chaos, but your clarity. Not your rage, but your remembering. Because a person who remembers their fire can't be caged again without burning everything down around them. They think miracles wear white robes and float down from the sky with harps playing in the background. They think divine intervention is quiet, polite, shows up on time and uses soft words. But real miracles, the kind that shake the bones of your story, they don't knock. They break the damn door down. They show up when you've already decided it's over. When the clock is dead and the light switch is broken. When you're crawling through glass just to breathe. That's when the real ones come. Uninvited, unexplained, undeniable. You're not gonna see it coming. That's the thing. You'll be looking left, bleeding out, begging for a sign, while it's coming at you from the right with its fists up and fire in its lungs. It won't feel like salvation at first. It'll feel like chaos, like heartbreak, like everything going wrong at once. Because sometimes before the light breaks in, the darkness has to finish its story, has to spit you out, empty and shaking, just to make room for what's next. Everyone wants the blessing, nobody wants the breaking. Everyone wants the promise, but not the process. You think you're being punished. But what if you're being positioned? What if that dead-end job, that shattered relationship, that silence that won't stop echoing, what if all of it was a setup? Not for your destruction, but your detonation. Maybe you're not being buried. Maybe you're being planted. And the thing about seeds, they don't bloom in sunlight. They bloom underground, alone, in the dark, pressed down by the weight of the dirt, surrounded by silence, smothered by pressure. That's where the real growth happens, not where everyone claps. Not where it looks good on a resume, but where it hurts, where no one's watching, where it feels like you're dying. That's where the miracle starts clawing its way out of the grave. It's not cute. It's not clean. It's war between the you they tried to make and the you that refuses to disappear. You've been told to be quiet, to be grateful, to play it safe. But the voice inside you, the one that's still whispering even after everything, that's the one that won't shut up for a reason. That's not insanity. That's instruction. You keep waiting for a sign, but maybe the chaos is the sign. Maybe the storm isn't something to survive. Maybe it's the vehicle. Maybe the pain isn't punishment. Maybe it's prophecy. Because the ones who get broken the hardest often carry the strongest medicine, the most dangerous kind of power, the kind that can't be taught, only earned, in blood, in silence, in madness. See, most people don't get it. They want God in a box, in a book, in a building. But what if he's in the breakdown? What if he's in the panic attack, in the empty fridge, in the eviction notice? What if he's not trying to rescue you from the fire, but meet you in it? Because sometimes the fire isn't there to burn you. It's there to burn away everything that isn't you. Everything that was added to you by fear, by survival, by pretending to be okay when you weren't. The miracle doesn't always come with music. Sometimes it comes in the form of exhaustion, of being so tired of your own lies that you finally scream, of being so done playing nice that you finally roar. And that roar, that's sacred. That's the beginning of everything changing. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you stopped waiting for it to be. You decided that if no one was coming to save you, then you'd save yourself. And in that decision, something ancient wakes up. Something hungry. Something holy. Something unstoppable. They'll hand you a script the day you're born, neatly folded, passed down from a long line of well-behaved ghosts. Go to school. Get a job, marry the right kind of person, smile on cue, swallow your screams. They don't say it out loud, but the message is clear. Don't think too much. Don't feel too deep. Don't dream too big. Color inside the lines, or we'll color you out. But here's the little secret nobody wants to talk about. Most of them aren't alive. Not really. Just walking corpses wrapped in routine, afraid of what might happen if they ever let the truth out of its cage. You start to notice it when you're young. That itch, that glitch in the system. Something doesn't add up. They all wear masks, even when no one's watching. They call it being mature, being realistic. But what they really mean is being numb, being tame, being dead while pretending not to be. So you start asking questions, the kind that make teachers nervous, the kind that make your parents say, stop being dramatic. But it's not drama, it's awareness. It's the sound of your soul banging on the inside of your ribcage, begging you not to sign the same contract they did. You try to play along. For a while, you shrink yourself to fit their version of sanity. You bite your tongue until it bleeds. You laugh at the jokes that aren't funny. You say, I'm fine, even when you're falling apart. But there's something wrong with pretending for too long. It rots you, Not all at once, but slowly, like rust eating through steel. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the thing staring back at you. A smile stitched on with fear. Eyes full of dreams that were never allowed to breathe. They'll tell you it's dangerous to feel too much, to care too deeply, to want more than what's in front of you. But the real danger is becoming okay with less, making peace with mediocrity, trading your fire for furniture and a paycheck, and if you're not careful, you'll forget that you ever wanted more. You'll convince yourself this is all there is. You'll mistake the cage for comfort, and that's the real tragedy. Not that you couldn't escape, but that you stopped trying. But sometimes, just sometimes, the glitch becomes a crack, a fracture in the glass of your carefully constructed lie. Maybe it's a loss, a betrayal, a dream that won't shut up. And through that crack, something starts crawling in, or maybe crawling out. The real you, the wild one, the one they tried to discipline out of you, the one who remembers the sound of your own laughter before the world taught you shame, the one who doesn't want to be normal, doesn't want to be liked, doesn't want to be safe, the one who wants to burn. And oh, when that part of you wakes up, there's no going back. You stop apologizing for being intense. You stop editing yourself to make others comfortable. You stop chasing approval like it's oxygen. Because you realize you were never the problem. The room was just too small for your kind of storm. They'll call you crazy. They always do. Crazy is just the name they give to people who remember they're still alive. People who don't flinch at their own power. People who choose the truth, even if it means being alone. Especially if it means being alone. Because alone with your truth is better than surrounded by lies that love you. And once you taste that kind of freedom, that kind of raw, bleeding honesty, the mask never fits the same way again. You ever notice how everyone's in a hurry to look important? Big shoes, stiff suits, louder voices. They strut around like walking billboards, flashing borrowed words and rented confidence, hoping no one sees the cracks. They sell you this fantasy: be successful, be strong, be in control. But none of them tell you what it costs. They don't mention how many pieces of yourself you'll have to shave off just to fit into their frame. How many nights you'll stare at the ceiling, wondering if maybe, just maybe, you're losing something you were never supposed to give up. They'll tell you pain is weakness, that if it hurts, it's a flaw. Cry in private. Bleed behind curtains. Smile in the daylight. They've built this perfect little circus where everyone's pretending to be fine, clapping for each other's masks, terrified that someone might spot the truth under the paint. And the truth? Oh, it's messy, it's not marketable, it can't be filtered, polished, or packaged into 30-second clips with motivational music in the background. The truth stings. It burns. But it's the only thing that ever sets anything free. They're so scared of falling apart. That's the joke, isn't it? They act like they've got it all under control, but they're crumbling inside, praying no one asks the wrong question. You learn early to play the part. Hide the scars. Memorize the script. How are you? I'm good. Lie number 1. I'm just tired. Lie number 2. I've got it under control. The biggest lie of them all. And it works until it doesn't. Until something snaps. A sound, a name, a memory. And suddenly you're in a free fall with no idea how far down rock bottom really is. But here's the twist. The breaking. That's not the end. That's the beginning. That's the beginning. That's the moment the act slips, the mask cracks, and the real face peeks out. Tired, bruised, but real. That's when the performance dies and the person begins. And the person? Oh, they've been waiting for years, waiting for you to stop pretending, waiting for you to stop pleasing ghosts, waiting for you to finally scream when it hurts instead of swallowing it like medicine. Because real strength isn't in holding it all together, it's in letting it fall and standing in the ruins anyway. They don't teach you that. No school, no Sunday sermon, no boardroom. They teach you how to compete, how to perform, how to make things look good even when they're rotting from the inside out. But they don't teach you how to face yourself. They don't teach you how to sit with silence, how to stare at your own reflection until the lies start peeling off. They don't teach you how to be broken without being ashamed, how to be vulnerable without being weak, how to bleed without asking for permission. No, they'd rather you keep dancing on cue, clapping for your own destruction. And you can play that game. You can chase applause and approval. You can wear the smile so tight it cuts into your cheeks. But deep down, there's a voice, small at first, a whisper, a scratch in the record. It says, "This isn't you." And if you listen, really listen, it grows louder, louder than the noise, louder than the critics, louder than the fear, until it's the only voice you trust. And when that day comes, when you finally stop silencing that voice, when you finally choose truth over comfort, chaos over conformity, pain over pretending, everything changes. Not in fireworks, not in applause, but in quiet revolutions, in the way you start walking without apology, in the way your eyes stop searching for permission, in the way your soul begins to stretch again after years of being told to shrink. You become the kind of person that unsettles rooms just by existing. Not because you're trying to be loud, but because you're done being silent. They keep saying timing is everything, but whose clock are we watching? Tick-tock, they say, like there's a universal hourglass up there just for you, slowly dripping sand while you're expected to run, smile, and never trip. The problem is, no one tells you the glass might have started upside down, or cracked, or maybe someone already flipped it while you weren't looking. And yet here you are, trying to beat a race they rigged, holding your breath for a moment that may never come the way they promised. You wait. You sit still. You tell yourself maybe tomorrow, or next year, or maybe when you're older, richer, happier, healthier, stronger, saner. You feed yourself these delicious lies like candy because they're sweet and soft and easy to swallow. Meanwhile, that thing inside you, that thumping, screaming thing that knows what it wants, you muffle it, you shush it, you treat it like a child in the corner of a dinner party because it's inconvenient, because it doesn't follow schedules, because it doesn't check calendars or wear watches or care about what's proper. See, it's not about the perfect time. It's never been. That's the joke. That's the trap. They've built this illusion where time is something outside of you, as if the right moment lives somewhere out there, around some corner you haven't turned yet. But you are the moment. You are the collision of chaos and breath and heartbeat. You're not late. You're not early. You're the storm breaking through someone else's forecast. They want you to wait your turn. But turns are for carousels and children lining up for candy, not for people like you. The clock doesn't rule you. Fear does. You're not stalling because it's not the time. You're stalling because you're scared of what happens when the curtain rises. When it's finally your scene and the spotlight hits your face and there's no more hiding behind planning or potential or pretending. You're scared that maybe you're not ready, that maybe they were right, that maybe you'll fall flat and it'll all be a joke, but not the funny kind. So you delay. You dress your hesitation up as patience. You call your avoidance preparation. But let me tell you a secret. The people who break the world open don't wait for the right time. They crash through doors while everyone else is waiting for them to open. They speak when their voice is shaking. They move with blood in their mouth. They leap without checking how deep the fall is, because they understand something others don't, that most people live their whole lives waiting to live. They wait to speak their truth, wait to leave the wrong job, the wrong love, the wrong life. And then one day there's no more time to wait. You can pretend you need more time. You can blame the weather, the economy, the moon, your mood. You can keep writing the script but never acting it out. But time doesn't care. It keeps walking. It doesn't pause when you panic or rewind when you regret. It keeps moving even when you stay still. And eventually all that waiting, it becomes a graveyard of almosts. Almost spoke up, almost left, almost tried, almost lived. So maybe the question isn't, is this the right time? Maybe it's, what are you so afraid will happen if you stop waiting? Because that answer, that's where the truth lives. That's where the fire is. That's where the real you is hiding, locked behind doors marked someday and not yet. But there is no someday. There's only now. There's only this breath, this beat, this heartbeat that won't stop screaming until you finally stop waiting and start tearing down everything that told you timing was more important than truth.